So episode 11 of season 5 of Breaking Bad is aired. It's titled Confessions, and shit is hitting the fan now. Let's just get this out of the way. There's that Todd scene at the beginning of this episode, and he is taking the methylamine into New Mexico, and he's gonna start cooking, so that's not gonna go well for Walt, because they're gonna think he's cooking again, and that's just not a good situation to be in. That's all I really have to say on that scene, but when we really get into the episode, what happens in this episode, first of all, it feels like so much happens in this episode, whereas last week it just felt like there was some fallout from the episode before that. This episode, you just have so much going on, and one of the big things for me was when Walt, Skyler, Marie, and Hank, they all got together at that dinner table, and that scene confused me at first. I was like, why would they invite them out to dinner now, knowing that they know about what Walt has done? And the way that scene played out, it was just so tense. You could just feel it at the table, especially when the waiter came by. I felt bad for that guy having to sit there with that family just full of hatred, really. And the real thing that comes out of that scene is what Walt gives Hank, which is his confession to what he's done over the past year. And seriously, that was it. That was the turning point. I do not want Walt to win anymore. The things he's done in the past, I was able to kind of justify it in my head, but now this thing, just sending that threat to Hank that way, that he would actually try and put Hank as Heisenberg, no, I'm done here. And there's more in this episode that just proves Walt's a piece of shit, but that was the big thing in my head that was like, alright, I want this guy dead now. I just... Team Hank. And the scene when they're watching that tape over... Jesus Christ, the acting in that scene was just amazing. First you had, of course, Dean Norris, who's hitting it out of the park this season. All of his little facial expressions as he's watching, and you just see he's getting more and more angry as he's watching. And the way Walt acts, I mean, Bryan Cranston does a fantastic job in that specific scene, just because he's gotten so good at lying that he can make it feel real. And if you showed that to someone who really didn't know the situation, they would probably believe him just because of how good at lying he is. And just to branch off of the Walt shittiness thing and go into something else, he manipulates Walt Jr. by telling him that he has cancer again so he wouldn't go to Hank and Murray's. Just all this stuff he does, and he's out in the desert, and he's talking to Jesse like he's his father still, and that's just a facade. He doesn't really care about Jesse at this point. He's just trying to save his own ass. And of course, Jesse can see through it, and Jesse in this episode, that was my favorite part of this episode, watching his storyline, just because he's basically getting forced out of his life into this new one. And when he looks at those cigarettes and he sees and he puts two and two together and realizes what's going on, that scene was just amazing. I hate how they left us off in the middle of a scene again like they did last week, right when Hank gets into the interrogation room. This week they leave you off while Jesse is pouring gasoline through Walt's house. And based on the preview for next week, I don't think it actually burns down. But still, you just finish the scene and then cut it. You don't need to cut it mid-scene just to have your cliffhanger in every episode. And one more thing I forgot to touch on was the fact that Hank now knows about the fact that Walt and Skyler paid for his treatment. So he is running out of options here. He really doesn't have anything he can do now because Walt has this tape, and of course, it's not like he's gonna stop though. He's probably gonna find a way around this, or at least he's gonna try to. I don't know if he will, because Walt just has such a grip on everything, and he just doesn't want to let it go. So what'd you guys think of this episode of Breaking Bad? Did you enjoy it? Did you not enjoy it? What was your favorite part of this episode? Write your beautiful comments down there and tell me what you think, and if you like this video, hit that subscribe button down there, because if you don't, I'll put ricin in your food or something. I don't even know if it works that way.